Alright, this is a highly specific video for Jay John's patron here on Patreon about distributed electrical, small grid electrical for cabins, trailers, SHTF, the whole nine. You have a 5K solar array from what you say. You also have several generators. And you're wondering about how to tie them all together. So I'm going to tell you what I can tell you without seeing it, without being there, without touching it, without seeing what kind of wire you've got and where the position of the sun relative to the array and blah, blah, blah. So I'm actually really good at this. Distributed renewable energy. And it's the thing that has set me apart in an industry. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of my secret, and then you can email me. squidandbearntxmag@gmail.com if you want some more advice on this. You need your generation. Right now you have generation at several different points. In order for you to distribute, you need your generation at one point, which then spiderwebs out from there. So think of like a wind farm comes into a collection system. You have multiple different methods of generation, multiple different generators, wind turbines or solar arrays or whatever. They go through what's called a collection system. Squid's here, he just not his bailiwick. They go through what's called a collection system where all the
I hire you.
Yeah, you hire me. So all those multiple points come together at a collection station, which is basically wires underground that it ties all of those multiple circuits together into a collection point where you're centralizing all of your voltage and your amperage, right? All your current, it's all coming to this one point, and then from there it generally goes on a transmission line, and then it goes to where it's distributed. So the generation is all in one point. You can have multiple different generators, but they all condense into one point. That allows you to distribute it more efficiently. So in this case, we'll just say hypothetically, you have your 5K solar array. Get that into a panel, like a main panel, that has say a 200 amp main breaker panel. And it can be a 10 space, a 30 space, a 40 space, it doesn't matter. Single phase panel. Take it out of the photovoltaic system into an inverter. So now instead of making 10 volts DC, you're making 120 volts AC per leg. Two of those give you 240 volts out of phase into the panel. So you're condensing all of that into a collection system into that panel. Then you use breakers, 100 amp breakers, 50 amp breakers, whatever, off of your bus bars in that panel, and do wire runs from where that is to your trailer, to your barn, to your shop, to your whatever. Now that's pretty basic, and it to me is a no-brainer, but to a lot of people, they don't understand that. So I may or may not have just dropped knowledge bombs on you. You may already get that. The issue is going to be on the other end. You're going to have a panel that you're feeding with that distributed renewable energy. So it's going to come off of a breaker at, say, your main panel into a sub panel where you have a trailer, or we'll just say your barn, a sub panel at your barn. Now at your barn you also have a generator. Well, if you have a generator at your barn plus you have incoming electrical, it's going to be just like anywhere else. So you'd have your mains on, mains coming into the barn from the grid. Then you have your solar being fed into that panel as well, off of a breaker from the main panel at the solar. And then you have a generator. So you're going to need a generator switch, a hookup there, and you're going to need a way to shut the solar array off and on. So you're going to need a breaker on that end as well where it comes into the panel. So the long and short is you're going to run a lot of wire. And the longer you're going to run and the more amps and volts you're going to carry, the bigger the wire you're going to need. So it is costly. There is a barrier to entry, and it works better at scale The more power you are producing, the more it makes sense to collect all that power in one place and then distribute it. You may get to the point where it makes more sense to have a 1K photovoltaic array at each place rather than having a 10K at one place and distributing it. So I generally don't mess with distributed renewable unless it's 50K of generation or more, and then I try and keep the run short, like your house, your barn, your shop, a couple of trailer pads, and maybe one other house, and they're all within 1,000 feet of each other. The bigger you get, the more sense it makes to do that. Smaller arrays, like a 10K turbine or a 5K PV array, it's not going to work great for you. The line loss and the cost associated to get to that point is going to be prohibitive. So if you have more questions, let me know. You might have anything to add to that? No. No. You sure? Mm-hmm. Okay. Hayden, you want to help with this one? What? Okay. Okay. So there's a highly technical answer that I tried to make as simple as possible and relative to your question. So if you have more questions, and I'm sure you're going to need clarification, email me and I'll be happy to discuss it with you further, but that's kind of the primer. You need a fairly robust large system in order to make it worth your time to distribute it. If it's not, you're going to spend a lot of time and energy for very little return. You'd be better off, rather than having a centralized system, to decentralize at each of your individual locations. So, J. Johns, electrical distribution.
Check.
The end.